Welcome back to High Top Sports Recruiting. This is Cody the Professor, and today we are talking about Oregon, what they're bringing in a recap video of the 2024 class. Go ahead and bring in the young man that's running that channel. How you doing, Derek?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me on. Get excited anytime I get to sit down and talk a little Oregon football, and particularly this 24 class. Pretty exciting stuff.
Do you only wear Oregon stuff? Because every time we see you on a video, it's something fresh and new. Is that your whole wardrobe?
Let me just put it this way. If I walk into my closet right now, I have a number of things to pick from. So yeah, I try to keep it rotational.
Gotcha. For sure. So obviously you know the class better than I do. I just watched the film. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring on this first slate of kids. We have Elijah Rushing, okay? And there's just no if, ands, or buts about it. This kid is something else. 5-star, number 3 edge, 42 nationally. He's 6'6", 251. He has the long arms. He's everything you want in an edge rusher. I like him standing up. He's got a nasty stutter and go move with a rip inside. And, you know, the offensive tackles are going to have an absolute day with him. Bring your hard hat, your lunch pail, because when Elijah goes up against you, you're going to just have your workout cut out for you. Also, extremely fluid hips. Would you say that's pretty on par for the course for young Elijah?
Oh, 100%. I think you really hit the nail on the head. You know, he definitely has that massive athletic frame. Like you said, 6'6", 250. Very big frame for an incoming true freshman. People describe him as very twitchy, tons of athletic burst after the snap. And, you know, one thing I don't think people give him enough credit for is how versatile he really is. I know he's coming in as the number 3 edge rusher in the class, but on Oregon's roster, they have him listed as an outside backer. So it will be kind of interesting to see how Dan and Tosh Lupoy decide to use him. And yeah, he's a plus defender in both the run stopping game and the pass rush. Gets after the quarterback very well, but absolutely a mainstay. It's a nightmare matchup. Running backs hate to see him coming across the line. And something that should make Oregon fans feel pretty good. 24/7, they put his player comp to former 5-star Oregon defensive end Eric Armstead, who we all know, 49ers defensive end right now, getting ready to play in a Super Bowl next weekend. Very successful career at Oregon, and, you know, took that to the next level with the 49ers as well. And, you know, just coming in, I think the recruiting services understand just how much potential he really has. 24/7 projects him someday, you know, obviously not right now, as a future first-round pick. You know, take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, there's a lot of development to be had. There's a lot of waiting to see kind of what his role is on this defense, kind of where his home ends up being. But yeah, just absolutely tons of potential with Elijah. One of the players that we are absolutely stoked to have in this class. I know Oregon fans were pretty disappointed early on in his recruiting cycle when he ended up committing to the Arizona Wildcats. A lot of people kind of felt like we lost out there, but, you know, Dan and company stayed with him and got him to flip back over to be a Duck. And yeah, he's one of those players that we're really excited to see. And, you know, it's just kind of left to be seen what his role will be next year, whether he gets some playing time, how much, where he lines up, that sort of deal. But man, all the potential in the world, and he's one I'm really excited to have on campus.
Yeah, I comp him more to a non-Oregon Duck, but a long, lengthy guy with, if they can put the muscle on him, a Daniil Hunter from LSU. Long, lengthy, can play that linebacker. I like him standing up. Like I said, he's got the speed for coverage on a tight end. I mean, you're not going to line him up against a twitchy slot guy, but a guy that can just really come down and wreak havoc. Like I said, very, very good with his hands, and that's my comp to him. Is Daniil Hunter, just in the NFL spectrum, if they can really put the muscle on him.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's completely accurate too. You know, my personal projection, like I said, it's to be seen kind of what they decide to do with him in spring ball, but I also think they'll use him as more of a standing up role. But regardless, Labs, tons of versatility, as you mentioned, you know, the ability to cover the tight end. He's definitely going to be a mainstay of the Oregon defense years going forward.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into to our next young man here, and that would be Aiden Breelan. Did I say that right? Is it Aiden?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Aiden Breelan, you go out and you get another defensive lineman, and a darn good one at that. And boy, I tell you, it's one of those things where you get to go in and double dip. He's a 4-star, number 8 defensive lineman, can play inside, can play outside. 6'5", long and lengthy again. 290. I'd like to see him about 320, 325 pounds. But he's got very, very heavy hands. His hips are very fluid coming out of that. It almost looks like he's getting shot out of a cannon, and he loves that bullish 1990s, early 2000s nose tackle when he is inside that bull rush. You think of some of the greats. Donald's doing it now with that same type of bull rush. He's taller than Donald, but that pressure up the middle in the quarterback's lap is just something to be feared. And I think the young man has a very bright future ahead of him. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said. As we can see, I think Dan Lanning, they definitely had an emphasis on what they wanted to target in this recruiting class. And obviously, the top two recruits can both be found on the defensive line, which is great news for Duck fans going forward, especially heading into Big Ten play, where that's a little bit more of a point of emphasis.
Yep.
But yeah, as you mentioned, 290 pounds. I kind of agree with you in the take that I think between the strength and conditioning program, the nutrition program, they will have him, up his body weight a little bit, obviously in a lean manner, for the most part. But I think one thing not a lot of people give him credit for is just how fluid and quick he really is. You don't really
Yep.
see a lot of 290-pound high schoolers move quite the way he does. And yeah, once again, you mentioned lines up both up inside and outside, tons of versatility on him. I think at the end of the day, when all said and done, he will be lining up more inside. Just kind of what we're hearing from how they plan on using him. Once again, we'll find more out about that in spring camp and, kind of moving forward with that. But yeah, very versatile. 24/7, another guy they're very high on. They could have his current draft projection as a second round pick someday. Once again, same thing with Elijah Rushing, where there's tons to be seen before we get to that point. It's just they understand the potential that he brings to the table. Um, yeah, he's just a big body dude and excellent in the run game. Ability to move around. It's just, and that versatility, we keep bringing that up, but that's something that we're going to see is definitely a pattern with this defensive recruiting class in particular. But Aiden Breelan, someone where Duck fans should be really excited to have him going forward. And once again, will be another staple of this Oregon Ducks defense going forward.
Yeah, so you bring up the Big Ten, and obviously the Big Ten is hog country. I mean, their offensive line are that you ain't getting on the offensive lines unless you're 325 plus, right? They like them 330, 340, 350, 375. Some kids are, and they are corn fed. They're fried fish and corn fed. They are something else. Different style of play of what Oregon has had to play in the past. Obviously, with some of the Pac-12 competition, kind of leaner guys, faster guys. How do you think that's going to transition over to the Big Ten?
Yeah, in years past, I might have been a little more skeptical, just because I don't think the point of emphasis was so much in the trenches. I think, this kind of going down this road of, a point of emphasis, it really started with the Mario Cristobal led teams. Obviously coming from Alabama, he understands just how important it is to have those trenches beefed up. What that means for your defense, kind of the havoc that it creates when you do have beef on the trenches. But yeah, like you said, going into the Big Ten, even more so important. I come from Wisconsin, so when I was a little kid, I'm used to seeing these absolutely just beefcakes on the Wisconsin offensive line. And, Oregon understands that that's exactly what they're going to need to counteract if they are going to be successful in the Big Ten and kind of reach the goals that they have in their sights. With that being said, the current roster as we sit right now, inclusive of this 24 class, I think they're in a good position. But I think as we move forward, the 25 class, the 26 class, we're going to see that this trend isn't going away anytime soon. Dan understands that if you want to be successful at this level in this conference and be a national powerhouse, it starts in the trenches. And, both Elijah Rushing and Aiden Breelan, they're wonderful examples of what that looks like. But yeah, I'm really excited to see that translate to Saturdays on the field. I think they have potential to really make some noise.
Yeah, and then let's get to our next guy. We talk about DBs and they like him a certain style. Iffy, a 4-star cornerback. He's 82 nationally, 6'1", 190. One of the best tackling corners I've seen out of this class. A true outside guy in man or zone, whatever you want to play him. He doesn't. He can play either or. Those long arms to reach and rip passes away, and just a guy that feels confident. You're going to see a lot of these guys have alpha mentality. Not every cornerback or DB has that. You just see it on their film. They know they're good, and I think it's almost a must for all great corners to have that true alpha mentality. What do you think about the young man? What's his full name too?
Iffy Obedigwu.
Okay, yeah, I would have butchered it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the young man?
You know, I know a lot of people put their hype into the Aiden Breelans and the Elijah Rushings of the world. Myself personally, speaking from a fan perspective, I think Ivy is my favorite recruit coming in. I think the man has potential through the roof. Like you said, he's long and lanky corner. People don't understand that, his wingspan spans 6'8", which is absolutely massive for a defensive back. And like you said, he excels both in man and zone coverage. Particularly man jams guys at the line of scrimmage really well. As you mentioned, an excellent tackler, which is, essential to having a great secondary on the outside. But yeah, tons of length, very fluid in coverage, as you guys know, and had a wonderful week at the Under Armour All-American game. Was voted, the highest riser that week. And the Wednesday game had a pick 6. So it's just, we were able to see some of that athleticism on display. And him in particular, I don't know if we're going to see him so much on the field this year. That's not necessarily due to a lack of talent whatsoever. Like I said, his potential is through the roof. It's just the sheer amount of depth that Dan brought in with not only the previous recruiting classes, what they have on campus right now, and the transfer portal. They addressed the secondary very well. But he's one who, once again, I think we're going to see him be a mainstay in the secondary. Could be an absolute disruptor and an absolute menace on the outside. So very excited to see what he brings to the table.
Yeah, when I'm watching him right now, he gives me a very, very young Sauce Gardner feel. And I know that is the highest praise when it comes to DBs, but same build, same look, long arms. I just, that's kind of the vibe I get from him. We'll come down, smack a quarterback or a running back and take a lick and keep on ticking. There's cornerbacks out there that don't like doing that, and it seems like Iffy, in phase, he's always comfortable, as we see there. He just feels like it's natural for him, and he has definitely a gift in that DB area for sure.
Oh, 100%. And, Oregon fans, obviously, this would be high praise once again. You definitely see flashes of Christian Gonzalez, right? So he spent a little time at Oregon at the end of his collegiate career there, and fans absolutely went nuts because of the style of play he brings to the table. And I think this is a very similar style of play, has some very similar attributes. Obviously, there's a lot of development that would need to happen before we're talking, future first-round corner in the NFL. With that being said, all the potentials on the table in the world. So very excited to have him kind of see that development progress. And eventually he will be a CB1 at Oregon. I can about guarantee that.
Yeah, has the size and length and frame at 18 years old that NFL scouts absolutely drool for if he can just put it all together. He has the wingspan that they want. He has everything they want if he can just go to work and put everything together. This kid could be a first round pick just off the size, length, and speed that he brings to the table. Let's go ahead and talk about one of the only pass catchers out of this class. Not a lot of offensive firepower this class, but we're going to talk about Jeremiah. He has a nasty sluggo route, a willing blocker in the run game, and a guy that really has figured out where the soft spot in the zones are for zone defense. He's a guy that's going to kill you there. I like him outside or inside, doesn't matter to me. 6 foot 190, about that perfect wide receiver frame that you want out of Missouri. What do you think about the young man?
Yeah, especially, you mentioned the fact that there's not a lot of offensive firepower on the outside in this recruiting class. And, for that reason, I think Jeremiah was one of the biggest surprises on signing day. Obviously being able to flip him away from Ohio State was, we can't emphasize just how crucial that really was. But yeah, very technically sound wide receiver coming out of high school, which is, something that you absolutely want to see. He's a dude who we could see get some playing time very early on in his Oregon career. And he's very explosive after he catches the ball too. So he projects as one of the best, yards after catch receivers in this 24 class overall. He really excels in breaking tackles as well, which is, coming out of high school, essential. Obviously, there's going to have to be some continued development at Oregon to kind of be able to take these traits and translate them to the next level. With that being said, he has all the tools in the world to be that wide receiver at Oregon someday. Obviously, was able to flip him away from Ohio State. And I think he understands the potential that he could have in this offense, a Will Stein-led offense, who we had, two 1,300-yard receivers last year with Troy Franklin and Tez Johnson. And I think he understands that he could absolutely be one of those staples in that offense moving forward as well.
Yeah, and as I say, a willing blocker, he does it right here and pancakes a kid. You're not going to get on the field if you're not willing to block. I don't care how electric you are. When it comes to wide receivers at the next level, you have to be willing to block. And this kid seems like he likes it just as much as catching balls.
Yeah, and Oregon fans, we've seen it all year. Just how important it is in a Will Stein-led offense to be able to block on the outside. It doesn't matter who you are. We saw Troy Franklin do it. Tez Johnson, a little bit more undersized. We saw him do it, and they do it successfully. And kind of like you mentioned, in order to see the field, you got to be able to hone that skill set. And he has a wonderful grasp on what it takes to be able to block on the outside and, be able to translate that to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's go ahead and get into our next young man. We're going to go back on the other side of the ball here. We're going to go with Aaron Flowers. He is a safety / DB, 4-star, 65 nationally. Guy, we have 5 players here, and we haven't even broke out of the top 100. That's how deep this class is. He is a versatile piece, kind of that old school hitting mentality safety that you don't see a lot of anymore in these recruiting classes. You see a kid every now and then, and it pops. It reminds you that you come across the middle, or you throw a little flare route to the running back, and he's there to make a play. He's gonna pop you.
100%. You once again hit the nail right on the head. Aaron Flowers is a guy who has been an extremely quick riser in the recruiting rankings over the last year. At one point he was in the high 250s. Obviously now cracked into the top 100. People understand just what he brings to the table, and like you alluded to, especially at the safety position, you don't see a lot of guys in this day and age who you would describe as that hammer, right? Who absolutely can have an instant impact in the run game, as well as be able to, cover your zone, cover your man, whatever you need him to do. He's very versatile. And for that reason, I think we will see him get some playing time as a true freshman. Oregon was able to address some of their needs at safety this year, bringing in Kobe Savage from Kansas State, Tysheen Johnson sliding back to the deep one. With that being said, I think Aaron Flowers is going to have some, important snaps this year going forward, but very physical, very fluid. And once again, just tons of potential. I know I sound like I'm saying the same stuff over, but that just goes to show, how deep this recruiting class is, and kind of the same attributes that you're seeing across the board between these guys. So Aaron Flowers is a dude who absolutely expect him to see the field this fall.
I would say Aaron Flowers has watched a tape or two of Brian Dawkins. That's I mean, when you see him here, he just comes down, and the guy just is an absolute hitter. And then he's not afraid to line up and have the speed against the slot corner, as he shows here in phase, no problem. The guy just it's refreshing to see a safety being willing to come down in the box and hit. And the nice thing about Flowers is sometimes you can get like a tweener, like a linebacker that can float safety, and he'll be your run guy. And then you have a coverage guy that doesn't like to hit like this. But this guy is a full package when it comes to safeties. He can come down in the box and hit, and obviously he can cover in the pass no problem. Has a little ball hawk in him, always trying to make the play on the ball. I really think this is one of the better kids, impactfully. I don't know if he starts right away at Oregon, but I think you see flashes of him right away, right?
Oh, 100%. And, like you said, I don't think he's going to start just due to the depth that they have brought in, between what they have on the current roster and the portal that was addressed this year. But, I would be absolutely shocked if we don't see him take some meaningful snaps this year, just because he is that playmaker right out of high school. He is one of the more ready players right off the bat to see the field come fall time already. And, once again, it goes back to that versatility. The man is he has an absolute nose for the ball. He closes extremely quickly and, definitely not afraid to lay a big hit. So he's another one personally I'm very excited to see. I know both of my personal two favorites come from the secondary, but for good reason. He played tons of great competition down in Texas. And, I think his skill set's something that's going to translate extremely well to the next level and very quickly at that.
Yeah, and I'll say this: definitely circle his name on special teams, because I think he's going to be a special teams ace his freshman year.
Oh, 100%, man. When you have a skill set like this, they're going to find a way to get you on the field. And, whether that be special teams, whether that be rotational, he's going to find a way on the field this fall. You won't keep him off.
All right, Derek. I think that's a heck of a class. Where can they find you now? I know that we have a lot of Oregon subscribers and viewership just off of our couple videos that we posted. If they really want to see you, where do they go to find you?
Yeah, first and foremost, obviously, as the prof mentioned, we have our own YouTube channel. We post plenty of Oregon content on there, so you can find us at High Top Oregon on the YouTube channel. If you're more of a Twitter person, once again, mentioned how active we are on Twitter. Find us at High Top Oregon on Twitter as well. If you like my personal, I'm at Wait Who's Derek, but all the good Oregon content comes at High Top Oregon. So be sure to give us a follow, subscribe to us on YouTube. Plenty of good stuff coming out, in particular these next couple of weeks with the 25 recruiting class.